I'm going to share with you 5 tips on how to make your canvas tent last a really long time. We've had this tent for about a year now and we keep it up permanently, and I say that loosely. We do take it down in the winter because of the snow load, but we keep it here 3 seasons and we use it basically every weekend. It's got beds and carpets and it's really like a little cottage that we've got here. Whether you're considering getting a tent or you already have one, these 5 tips will help you maintain your tent for a long time, especially if you keep it set up like this. We're setting up the tent today, but before I set it up, we have to take care of some dead branches looming over the tent. This tip doesn't really need to be said, but try to keep dead branches of trees from falling on your tent. Last video I made a remote control chainsaw to cut high limbs, and I really couldn't get to some of the really high limbs. So this time I hired a professional, which is what I should have done before. I also kind of wish I had one of these cool arborist slingshots. All these dead branches would have been on the tent at some point. I'm gonna sleep a lot better knowing that there's no dead wood that's gonna come down in the middle of the night. But I do have some of these very angled ironwoods. If you can see them back here. They're like just very angled. And basically, we've got a lot of these ironwoods on the property, and it seems that some of them will just like develop root rot or something and they'll just suddenly fall over. And if these fall over, they're gonna basically spear right into the tent. So I'm gonna buzz those down and then I'm going to attempt to install the tent all by myself. Certainly wouldn't call this a backpacking tent. And maybe if you had a horse. It's heavy. So the biggest risk with like a canvas tent is mold issues. And the number one thing you should do to avoid mold issues is pack it dry. So we took this down in the fall. We have winter and like snow here and stuff, so we took it down. We took it down on a nice hot day and packed it away and then stored it in our, climate controlled home. And we're gonna see if it's got mold issues. Hopefully not. No, looks perfect. Looks great. Let's get this tent up and I'll show you the other tips. Once you have it kind of set up, it's really easy to adjust the center pole. But once you have it tightened down, center pole does not budge. So I'm gonna get these somewhat tight and then I'll come back and snug them up. Kind of that right after you set it up for the first time, you wait a day or two and then you want to tighten it up again for sure because it's kind of stretched out a bit and you can see like the bar there is showing. But once it's all tight, you get rid of a lot of this flop here and it's just like, you want a taut tent. That's what you want, a taut tent. Keep your tent tight. If your tent's too loose, it might rub against the furniture inside and it will flap in the wind a lot more. A tight tent will just hold up better in high winds. Avoid using guy lines made of bungee material or like loops made with bungee. I've seen these fail prematurely and I've seen tents kind of wrecked because of a failed bungee or two and then the tent just got shredded against the furniture inside. I get asked how it does in the wind and it's like rock solid. Most tents I find like shake a lot in the wind or they kind of vibrate and stuff and flutter. This one doesn't do any of that and it's super solid. And yeah, there's been some crazy winds here since we leave it up all the time. It's been some crazy winds and there's been no issues at all. So it's definitely one of the tougher designs as far as like wind goes. And I think it's mostly because of the guy wires there. Someone also asked me about this center pole here. They were concerned that it was flimsy and like might get knocked over, but because you're tensioning the canvas against the post, it like won't budge at all. Like there's no chance of it moving really. It's got like a little rubber foot too, but my kid like grabs onto it and doesn't move or anything like that. Yeah, solid center pole. I think one of the easiest things to do is to keep your tent clean, especially if you're under trees like we are, or there's trees around here. You want to keep all the debris off of it. I find the rain and stuff kind of like collects in the pollen and debris, and it just sits there for a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to dry, which can bring mold. And mold is like the #1 killer of canvas tents. Do you want to see a spider? No. Do you want to see a spider? Should we blow the spider away? Do you think he needs to make a house somewhere else? Yeah, I think so. Do you want to use the blower on the tent?
No. Okay.
You want to use the sprayer on the tent? Yeah, we're going to use the sprayer soon. But first we need to blow off all the junk. Look at all the dirt on there. Look how like gross this is after, even after blowing it off. So it'll be nice to get this thing wet, and maybe we'll give it a sweep before we do that, but. All right, here we go. Oh, keep it steady, boys. Keep it steady.
Hey.
Want to play over there? I think we're just gonna get water. One of the benefits of being on a private lane is that you can, oh. Is that good enough? Let me stop here. One of the benefits of being on a private lane is he can drive. We can send him on errands. I'm just gonna use the backpack sprayer with a little bit of vinegar, maybe like 1/10 an inch or so of vinegar in this. And we'll shake it up. I think this will work. One thing I did notice is that this side of the tent looks like it has a lot more like stains and stuff, even though it's in like the daylight. And the back part of the tent, which is more under trees, seems to look a lot newer. And my theory is that this one got a lot more UV damage while we didn't have a fly on it than the back did. So the UV kind of damaged the waterproofing and stuff like that, and it just made it more susceptible to staining. And the back, which was mostly protected by shade most of the day, even though it had more stuff falling on it from trees, it just stayed looking a lot fresher because the waterproofing was more intact. So my takeaway from this is clean it often and waterproof it often, not just once every 2 years like we're doing. So we just have to let this dry before we put the waterproofing on. And I switched into my swim shorts, so it's time to go for a family swim. Time to go for a swim?
Break time.
After you scrub it down, you just apply some waterproofing stuff. We're actually just gonna use the same sprayer as we used to clean it. I think maybe we should have done the waterproofing in the fall. There's already some like little spots on it, and we had this tent up for a few really wet weeks and really dirty, pollen-y kind of weeks without any waterproofing on it. Let's have a look on the inside here. I'll show you what I mean by those little spots there. Here's one of the spots. I don't know if you can see that. On the outside, you really can't see anything, but on the inside, you see a little spot there. So I think it's, you know, tree debris and stuff just staying wet might have caused a little bit of mold. But definitely didn't look like that when we set it up a few weeks ago. This side's fine. Should have done it last season, then it would have been good for this season. We'll know for next time. I'm using it's called Dry Guy waterproofing concentrate. You mix it 3-to-1. So I'm just gonna add this to the sprayer and then add 6 of these bottles full. This stuff is like eco-friendly, safe to use, it's low odor. Actually, I can't smell it at all. You're gonna have to help me keep count. 1, that's 2. Keep me accountable here. I'm a huge fan of that little battery operated bottle jug dispenser thing. It was like super cheap, maybe 20 bucks or something. And it's just rechargeable and it just lasts like a long time. So, thing's awesome. How many is that? I would say this whole like cleaning and waterproofing process definitely takes some time. It definitely, you know, you kind of commit probably about 4 hours of work across the course of a day or 2. But overall, probably a lot less work than what it would be like to, you know, have a proper house or a cabin or something like that, all the work that goes into that. Full disclosure, I did this one coat yesterday. So the bottle says if you do a couple coats, it's better. But I think the problem is it's the first coat is repelling the second coat. Actually, Katrina did yesterday's coat. She probably did a fantastic job, but sometimes you get 2 people doing the same task, you get a slightly different take on it, and you can get maybe better coverage. So I went a little heavy in spots, so I'm just going to use this tea towel. It's elastic on this boom pole and try to get the beads kind of flattened out a bit. Hopefully that's better. Now we just have to wait for this to dry, and then the next step I'm going to share with you the number 1 thing I think that will prolong the life of your tent, especially if you leave it up permanently like this. The waterproofing seems to have worked well. Ooh, back from a refreshing swim. Probably one of the better swims I've had in a while. Our son learned how to jump off the dock, and he just did that on repeat for like 20 or 30 times. If that's not what it's all about, I don't know what it's all about. Now it's time for what I think is the most important thing for the longevity of your tent, and that's a fly. Sure, you can leave the canvas out, you can waterproof it often, you can clean it often, but a fly really helps with keeping the debris and the rain and the sun off of your canvas tent. Think of it kind of like a sacrificial kind of like top of your tent. Eventually the fly will degrade, but it's a lot cheaper to replace a fly than a tent. We had a sun fly on last summer, just really protects from the sun. It did shed a bit of rain, but this one's gonna shed mostly the rain. It's kind of a rain fly, and it should cut a little bit of UV, but between the waterproofing and the fly, I think will really make this tent last a long time. This pole has come in so handy. I actually got this pole for free years ago. Somebody found it when they were hiking or something, or clearly somebody was using it on a shoot and then left it. And I messaged the person that said, it's not mine, but nobody ever claims it, I'll take it. Used it a lot for random things like this. Not really photography stuff. What do you think of the fly?
Pretty fly.
Perfect.
Oh.
Having it fly like this also adds a layer of insulation, so the tent stays cooler in the summer and hotter in the winter. I think the fly looks really good, and I think this will definitely help the tent last a long time. If you have any tips or advice, I would love to hear them. This is our second year doing this, and it's been fantastic to stay in. But we're always open to advice, tips and tricks. Hopefully these tricks helped you out, and if they did, feel free to follow along for more. I just love sharing stuff that we've learned. Stuff that I've seen on YouTube really helped me, and hopefully I can help others just with our experience, even though we don't know what we're doing.